What is up? The War Within Week 2 is finally concluded, and today we're going to go over and see which classes are performing in the raids and to see if you made a terrible decision on which class you decided to play because your class is dog. Okay, first, let's look at the chart from last week. If you remember last week, Fury Warriors and Arcane Mage were absolutely destroying in Heroic Raid, and they got nerfed. However, Enhancement Shaman was at the top, so I'm predicting that Enhancement Shamans were going to be the most overpowered this week, but we're going to take a look at that and see how it's played out. Let's go ahead and look at the statistics and filter all the classes by 95th percentile over a range of 1 week. Oh, this is the Mythic DPS chart. I think we actually have to look at Heroic until the Mythic raid starts to get cleared by more people. But as of right now, this is what the chart looks like for Mythic. Let's take a look at Heroic. And there it is. Okay. Yeah, this is more along the lines of what I thought it was going to look like. Was Enhancement Shaman on the top, followed by Arcane Mage, which also got a little bit of a nerf. And it even appears now that Arms Warrior is starting to slowly outscale Fury Warrior with the nerfs. Both warrior specs looking very, very strong, and then Sub Rogue surprisingly way up there. I was not expecting to see that. And then Destruction Warlocks really, really rising. Their stocks are rising in the heroic level category. The Mythic category is interesting. Of course, a lot of the Race of World First teams don't share their logs. There's not enough kills. They haven't even started Prog on Queen Ansarek yet, so it's hard to look at Mythic logs at this point in time, but eventually we will only look at Mythic logs. Let's go ahead and pull up the rankings, and we'll see which classes are doing really well on single target. For single target, we're going to use Sikrin as a judge for our pure single target fight. On Mythic, we can use Sikrin. We'll also take a look at Heroic, but oh my goodness, BM Hunters and Enhancement Shamans appear to just be dominating the field, followed by Arcane Mages as our single target kings this tier. BM has a literal, I mean, almost no competition. They are clearly the favorite here. BM Hunters being the dominant single target class spec is what it's looking like as of right now. If we filter that by Heroic, more BM Hunters followed by Arcane Mages and Enhancement Shamans. A few other exceptional performing classes, primarily in the 618, 619 item level range here, able to squeak their way in. This guy's 623 item level. But BM Hunters, Arcane Mages, and Enhancement Shamans are the clear favor for the single target in week 2 of Heroic of Nerub-ar Palace. So let's take a look at a fight that has a lot of ads. Of course, we're going to go to Brood Twister. This is our ad pad fight, 100%. And we have an Enhancement Shaman on top, followed by some Frost DKs, and then Fury Warriors holding it down. Pretty strong right here still. And those Frost DKs, honestly, is what Liquid and Echo were using to be their top damage. They're the most consistent damage. They don't have to play much around their cooldowns, kind of like Fury Warrior does. They just have really consistent big damage all the time. And if we filter that by Mythic, it doesn't look like it's pulling up any logs. It doesn't have enough logs to pull from Mythic for Brood Twister yet, because there's only obviously the top guilds in the world that have killed that. So I guess we just go off Heroic logs right now. But I do see Fury Warrior and Frost DK being the outliers here on the strongest classes in Raid for multi-target, especially on this fight. I believe they're number 1 and number 2, with the Frost DKs being on top in Mythic. That being said, we could kind of transition this and look. Oh, let's actually look at the trinkets real quick. So a lot of them using Arakara, Sackbrood, and Mark of Karnos, or a Shadow Binding Ritual Knife if they got that from the Delve, and then Skarmorak Shard. Another 1.5 minute trinket that lines up really nicely for the Fury Warriors. And how about, yeah, Arakara Sackbrood with Mark of Karnos. This is the meta, and I feel like that's what's going to be happening in Mythic Plus for all the melee users. The 1.5 minute on use trinket is just too powerful. And let's see what they're doing on Sikrin on a single target fight. what trinkets are hot right now for BM Hunter. Skardan's Grace, Arakara Sackbrood, another Skardan's Grace. Wow, every single BM Hunter using Skardan's Grace, the on use that increases your mastery. So these 2 minute and 1.5 minute on use trinkets that just give you flat stats seem to be top right now. And then the second trinket seems kind of like you just take whatever the best item level you can get at this point in time. I don't see too much meta forming, whereas the Spymaster's Web looks like almost every single mage is using Spymaster's Web. That's in the top 20. Every single arcane mage is using Spymaster's Web, and primarily Arakara Sackbrood as their secondary trinket. So if you are playing mage, you might want to go ahead and snag those two trinkets. And then for the enhancement shamans, Sackbrood. Sorry, nope, not that one. Let's see, another Sackbrood, and then pretty much the highest item level trinket they can get from there, where you see some people using an Avenex and a Skardan's Grace as well. Okay, so everyone's still using Arakara as their primary, because you want one on use and you want one passive trinket that just kind of gives you damage passively. And I think that the Arakara plus an on use is looking like it's going to be the meta for this X pack, and that's actually what I'm trying to get right now on my warrior, is the 1.5 minute on use as well as a high level Arakara. So I've got to spam those mythic dungeons today and try and basically just be living in the Arakara as well as the Grim Batol today, trying to get those trinkets. So that's a single target fight. Now let's look at Queen Ansarek, the premier fight of the raid. Now this is where a lot of the Race to World First people are going to be, you know, looking for the absolute best characters to fill the raid with so that they can win Race to World First. On Heroic, it looks like a landslide victory for Fury Warriors, just being extremely consistent in the burst cleave damage section, whereas I feel like Frost DK is consistent damage over time, so they're really good on a fight like Brood Twister. This is primarily burst, timing your cooldowns, and doing big burst damage. This is where a Fury Warrior shine, and it looks like Havoc Demon Hunter is starting to come out of nowhere here. And as their I-beam was kind of broken the first week, and now it's back. Havoc Demon Hunters are back on this fight, and they are absolutely pumping. You can see a lot of Havoc Demon Hunters here in the top 100. Rep Paladins looking to be pretty decent as well for damage, and of course the overall just hero class right now is Enhancement Shaman. They're just extremely good single target and multi-target. They're good in every situation. They have good bursts. They have good solid overall damage, single target and multi-target. You cannot go wrong if you're playing one of these classes here, any of these classes in the top 100 that are here right now. They're just amazing for the Queen Ansarek fight. And I just really don't see much range DPS on Queen Ansarek. Maybe one Affliction Lock here and an Augment Evoker. But we got one Mage and one Boomy. This is kind of crazy. I mean, just range DPS just not looking good at all for the top 100 on Queen Ansarek. However, overall, range DPS is doing decent in the raid. Let's take a look at the chart one last time for 95th percentile over last week. And we can check this for Heroic because Mythic doesn't have enough. So Enhancement Shaman is clearly the hero class right now. They're just the best all around in every situation, whereas Fury Warrior kind of has its niche, and it's about timing your cooldowns. If we filter that by 100% max, you'll see the Rep Paladins really rising whenever they are timing their cooldowns, playing extremely efficiently, and have good item level and trinkets. And yeah, that's just what I thought was going to happen. They were after they nerfed Fury and Arcane. So I have a feeling maybe we see an Enhancement Shaman nerf here sometime soon. I don't know about Ret. Ret feels like it's in a pretty good space. But they have just a lot of burst damage, and they're just really good in keys with like their 30-second cooldowns, which is just absolutely crazy. They almost have cooldowns on every single pack. And Rep Paladins consistently pull threat off of me as a tank in Mythic Plus. So they're just an all-around good class to go with. any of these classes right here feel pretty solid right now in the raid, especially Frost DK is a little bit underrepresented here. I do feel like Frost DK has a special place in the raid if they're played really well. But this is the overall chart as of right now. Frost Mage and Fire Mage down pretty bad still, even with the buffs. I don't see many Survival Hunters. Marksman does perform well on some fights that have a lot of ads. And then, yeah, everybody else is really just trying to keep up with the mages and the warriors still. And of course, the enhancement shamans. But if we are filtering by the 2 fights that matter, which is full single target, Beast Mastery Hunter and Arcane Mage and Enhancement Shaman on top, followed by Sub-Rogue, which Sub-Rogue will continue to rise as they get better weapons. And let's filter this by our Brood Twister fight, so you can see who are the AoE kings of the raid. Right now, Fury Warriors still on top, and Frost Death Knights, followed by Enhancement Shaman. And then the fight that really matters, Queen Ansurek, which is a good mixture of single target and burst AoE damage. You have the Fury Warrior, Havoc, Rets, Enhance, just a full melee show on the last boss really here, until the Devastation Evokers can kind of come in there. It's well-timed burst damage for Queen Ansurek with a solid mixture of DPS. So there's what you have right now for week 2 of the War Within. I really quickly want to do a bonus segment here for Mythic Plus, and I want to show, see if there's a meta forming in keys. We actually have our first time 13 today. A Miss 13 was timed, so that's the highest key in the world at this point in time. And to me, I can see a very clear meta here. And the easiest one to spot is that there is a Restoration Shaman in almost every single group on high keys on this front page, if you're looking at what type of meta is forming. And I see, of course, there is going to be a mage in every single group. Surprisingly, at the top end, starting to see a lot more Frost Mages at the top end now instead of Arcane Mages. It was all Arcane Mages in week 1, and now I am surprised to see that Frost is slowly becoming the new meta in a lot of these keys. And of course, you have the Augment Evoker. And the third one, the wild card here for this expansion, is the Frost DK. I'm not sure anyone saw this coming, but Frost DK is incredibly good in keys. Now, this right here, these 3 classes with the Restoration Shaman, if I had to pick a meta, I'd say if you're playing one of these 4 classes right here, you're going to have a good time getting into keys this expansion, unless one of these classes gets nerfed. Frost Death Knight is just incredibly good because there's so many casters this tier, this expansion, in the War Within, and this key lineup. There's a lot of casters that don't move and they need to be pulled in or grouped, and just DK having that grip and the battle res is just incredibly good. And it's hard to replace the utility that DK brings with the battle res and the grip. And of course, the 15-second kick being a melee. And of course, they just have exponential output, consistent burst damage as our consistent AoE damage over time. Right now, Frost DK is my all-star pick for Mythic Plus this season. I think we're going to see them in just about every single high key. And then your mage is just so survivable. You need a ranged kick, and the Augment Evoker to kind of empower these two has been the standard over the past 2 X packs. So I just really see these 3 being the primary meta of keys, where you do have a couple of outliers, a couple people using a rogue or an affliction lock, but they're still having, the mage and the Augment Evoker pair. But in this group, you have a weakness in this group. They don't really have I guess they have the lock for battle res. So you do need your B res, and you do have your 3 characters that can lust. And of course, all of them are probably, obviously having the goblin jumper cable type of thing. But unanimously, this is the more popular meta that I'm seeing. The big 3, if you will, the Frost Mage, Augment Evoker, Frost DK. And then being able to kite is very good. Now, the tank category is the one category that there is not really a meta forming yet. You do see a lot of Guardian Druids and Vengeance Demon Hunters primarily on this front page, but you also see 2 warriors, you see a couple, 2 protection paladins, and you see a blood death knight. I mean, that's every single tank on the front page, and you just don't see that with any other class. That tells me that Blizzard has done a fantastic job balancing tanks in this expansion, and I don't know if we'll see a meta forming in the tank category for quite some time because of how close all of these tanks are. It looks like almost every tank is viable. It's just that some people might want the Guardian Druid for the extra battle res, or some people might want the Vengeance Demon Hunter for the extra damage in their comp, or some people might you know, they might want the Blood DK for an extra grip utility to grip in the mobs, which also Vengeance Demon Hunter is pretty good at as well. So having at least 1 Death Knight in your group is almost, I would say, mandatory. It looks like some groups are using 2 Death Knights because they're just that good. Elemental Shamans and Enhancement Shamans are very good. However, I don't see them being used in too many meta comps. It looks like they are using one here. Enhancement Shaman is the outlier. You don't see them on the front page very much. They are very, very good in overall damage. So if you can find a way to work them into your comp, yes, they are pretty good. But to me, this is looking like the big 3 right here: the Frost Mage, Augment Evoker, Frost DK. Guys, that's our breakdown of week 2. We'll continue to monitor the metas in the raid as well as as soon as we get more mythic logs, and we will be monitoring the Radar IO to find if there's any trending metas forming in Mythic Plus. If you like these type of videos, I'll be breaking them down every single week. Hit that follow button. I'm Sardako, and I'm live on Twitch almost every day at 4 p.m. Central Time. See you then.